Hey everybody, happy lunchtime to all of you in Fort Chip and all of you in Fort Mac. Happy lunchtime. How are you? Leadership Boot Camp. This is the Becoming a Community Builder coaching session for Catalyst for Responsibility. Catalyst for Responsibility. How do I get others to take ownership? How do I get others to buy in? How do I engage them and help them to take greater ownership than they did the day before and like it, right? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about creating and being a catalyst for others to take greater responsibility. Why? Because today's effective leader understands they can't do it all on their own. Today's effective leader realizes that they need others, that it's about the others. All right, so what are we doing? We're taking your questions. We're taking your questions. We're here for the next 45 minutes from now until 12:45, right? Now until 12:45. We're taking all of your questions. You can email them in at questions.rmwbleaders.ca, questions@rmwbleaders.ca, or of course Margie is in the chat box. Now I am going to take, hi Margie.
Good morning, or good afternoon.
Good afternoon, that's right. So Margie's here. She's ready to take your questions and read your questions on air. You can email them in, you can chat them in. Now we are going to take a few minutes today and we're going to talk about pride. We're going to talk about pride, and then I'm going to send you an email tomorrow, and an email on Monday, and an email on Tuesday. For those of you in Fort Chip, an email on Tuesday before we meet, and an email on Tuesday for you in Fort Mac before we meet on Wednesday night. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow, Thursday, Monday, and Tuesday on pride to unpack it. But I want to go into it. How do I build pride? You see, I think pride is a magic force. It's a magic force. A magic force. It's like Gandalf's staff. It's like Frodo's sword, or Bilbo Baggins' sword. It's a magic force. What the hell are you talking about, Ian? Haven't you watched The Hobbit? Have you watched The Hobbit, Ian? You know, I've never watched The Hobbit. Till the other day on a flight on Air Canada, I was nothing to do, and so I watched The Hobbit. And Frodo, or whatever his name is, Bilbo Baggins, had a ring. And with his ring, see my little ring there? Put it on this camera over here. See that little ring there? It's titanium or whatever it is. Not titanium. What's the other thing? The really expensive platinum. It's my platinum ring, my platinum wedding ring. How about that? I think it's actually stainless steel. But I think Gina gave me a stainless steel. Anyways, so he had this ring, and this ring made him invisible. It was a magic force. Well, we're going to talk today about a magic force that you can utilize as a leader. It's a magic force. It has nothing to do with hallucinogenics or mushrooms. It's a magic force. But you can ask questions. You might ask a question about buy-in. You might ask a question about any of the other subject matters that we've discussed, right? You might. Now, you also know that on Tuesday, after the long weekend, I sent out 2 emails. I actually sent out 2 emails. One email went out to all the people that have made a commitment. And I was like, yeah, all right, woo! And I gave you a little quote there about commitment. It was the first step in being great and all that kind of stuff. And I said, thank you for making your commitment. I was looking at you this week. I was looking at your commitment this weekend, and thank you for making your commitment. Some of you got that. Others of you got the gentle nudge. That's the gentle nudge of me saying to you, hey, haven't got your commitment, right? You got the, where's my collar? You got the gentle nudge. And immediately, some of you sent in your commitments. And over the next couple days, before we all see each other, I'll respond to the commitments that you make, give you my thoughts and my ideas, whatever. Others of you still haven't turned in your commitment. Now, what was interesting is that one person, when I sent out the gentle nudge, emailed back, I don't want to participate anymore. Isn't that funny? You know why? Now, I don't know why, but oftentimes what I see is as soon as there's a little bit of that nudging, people are like, I'm out. I'm out for whatever reason. Now, I'm not saying anyone's bad, but let me just say this. If you haven't had time to establish your commitment, if you haven't had time, you can't get, then don't worry. You can't get behind. Well, you're always encouraging us to do everything. Yeah, but I also, to counter that, I'm always saying do it as you can do it. The portal's up forever. You don't have to, right? So on one hand, if you want to participate along, following the sequence and the timing and all that, great. If that suits you. If that doesn't suit you, and you would be better suited to kind of go at your own pace, that's fine too. That's the beauty of this. But make no mistake, make your commitment. Now why? Well, let's talk about time. Because we had a long conversation about time, right? Let's talk about time. The commitment making and then doing is a high return on investment activity. Huh? Yeah, it's a high return on investment activity. It's the kind of activity that provides you a greater return for the time put in. See, when I make a commitment, build a plan, then work on that plan, and then complete it successfully, that provides me huge return. One, I worked on changing. That's a great skill to learn and to grow. I built a plan, obviously effective because I changed. That's a great skill development. I built trust with those around me because they see me take their feedback and get better at it. Or how about this? Growing my own self-worth and self-esteem and my capacity to believe that I can make tomorrow better than it was yesterday. That's awesome. Look at all of the potential positive impact besides just the specific skill development that I'm hoping for, or change that I want. That would be a perfect example of a high return on investment activity. There's a lot of other stuff that results from the one activity. Well, I don't have time, Ian. Well, really? It's a high return. I mean, if you put an hour into that, you're going to get 10 hours of return. What's your point? Make your commitment. Not because I'm some taskmaster, not because I'm some but come on, just make a commitment and then work hard at it. Okay, don't forget, you can ask your questions in the chat box, or you can ask your questions at rmwbleaders.ca. I had a question, an email that came in around buy-in. Ian, I watched the video on buy-in. I understand the principles. How would I practically use this in my daily occurrence? All right, one of the challenges that we all face as leaders, with title or without title, is how do I get other people on board? How do I get them on side? How do I get them to buy in? And what I think, I think because we're proactive, big picture, holistic systems thinkers, I think that one of the things that you have to do is you have to think proactively about buying in. And you have to look at the attitudinal barriers that prevent buy-in. And if you remember, we talked a little bit about it. Debatification. That's where a person wants to debate the thing to death. That's a barrier to buy-in. They're going to debate it to death. Or what I call plotting-itis. They're going to plot against the thing being successful. So those are some of the attitudinal barriers. So the only way to overcome those attitudinal barriers is to be proactive about getting buy-in. So before you ever start the endeavor, you think through what the potential attitudinal barriers are and the ways you're going to overcome them. And we said, remember, that there was 3 keys to somebody buying in, to the person that asked the question, that emailed me. Remember, there's 3 keys to overcoming, to gain buy-in. That one, I had to make a simple and yet direct case that the thing I want to do, or what I'm trying to accomplish, or what I'm trying to launch, is relevant to that stakeholder group. Remembering that this stakeholders group perspective of relevancy and this stakeholders group perspective of relevancy might be 2 different things. That's why you have to be such a great listener You have to listen to what their needs, wants, hopes, desires, and aspirations are. So you can show them through their filter of communication what's relevant, what's relevant, what's relevant. So before I ever begin to the questioner, I've got to say to myself, the stakeholders who I'm about to go talk to, how can I explain this that would be most relevant to them and show them the true value of the relevancy to them? How could I do that? Secondly, I then say to myself, how am I going to prove that what we're going to do is going to have an impact? Now, what is that rooted in? That's rooted in knowledge. That's rooted in you knowing what the heck you're talking about. We've said that a number of occasions over the past weeks. You got to be vocationally competent. You have to know what you're talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, go to the University of Google and find out. Right? I mean, go to the University of Google and find out so that you can explain either the positive impact or the potential negative impact. So the positive impact of action and the potential negative impact of inaction. But you have to be able to explain it to the fact-based communicator, the emotion-based communicator, the belief-based communicator, the values-based communicator. You have to be able to explain it to those level of communicators, those kind of communicators. Well, the only way that you can do that is you have to go gain the knowledge. So for you, practically speaking, to be able to identify impact, this is how it's going to impact you. It can't be because this is what I think. Because everybody's going to be like, well, I don't think that. You've got to be able to back that up with some facts, some information, some investigation, some research. You've got to be able to say, well, you know, if we don't take care of blank, here's what's happened in other communities that haven't taken care of blank. Or if we take care of blank, here has been the result in other companies or other situations or other neighborhoods or other nonprofits or other whatever. But the only way you can have that ammunition, if you will, or have that information is to go get it. So the key to explaining impact is knowledge and information. Then finally, people buy in based on quality. So what's that about? That's before you go out and try to engage these stakeholders. You've got to do a courageous conversation of how they will perceive your quality. My wife likes to be involved in community theater, right? She used to dance all over the world, and she was a big star, leading a nationwide McDonald's commercial down in the States. She was, really was. You can Google right now on YouTube, and you can see her North American-wide McDonald's commercial when she was 14 years old. She got big hair, and she got these big glasses because she's in a science lab, because it's in a school setting, right? And they're getting out of school for the summer, and Gina's a cheerleader, and she's got these glasses on, and kind of funny. Google it. Anyways, where was I going with that? Oh, she likes to do community theater. That was a little ADD moment there. Sorry about that. She likes to do community theater because she's always been a performer all her life and all over the world. But now likes to be involved in community theater. And sometimes community theater groups and nonprofit organizations wonder why nobody will get involved with their thing. Well, often it's because their thing sucks. They're no good at their thing. They have deep passion for their thing, but the product that they're turning out isn't any good. And because it isn't any good, nobody else wants to get involved. So they complain that they're the only ones funding it, but because it's not any good, no one else will fund it. Well, don't you want to support community theater? No, it's not very good. Quality. Not because people aren't trying hard. People are trying hard. They're going in their early mornings and late nights and the weekends, and they're trying to put on a great show. The only problem is it's not any good. So I'm not going to align my business's logo or my individual donation into something that's not very good. Quality. Quality. So to get buy-in to the question, the person asks the question, to get buy-in, you must ask yourself, is the thing we're doing any good? And the answer is no, the things that we've done before haven't been of quality, then we have to say to people why it's going to be different this time. We have to be able to say, you know what? We know that there have been times when it hasn't been very good. Here are the corrective measures that we've taken, and we can assure you it's going to be better this time. Oh, okay, well, if it's going to be better, maybe I will buy in. Now, that's a community example within a company, within a business, within an organization. I don't buy in because the last 3 things you rolled out weren't any good, and we're not even doing them anymore. And because they weren't any good and we're not doing them anymore, I don't buy in. I come to work because I have a mortgage to pay, or I have bills to pay, or I have kids to feed. So I come to work and I trade time for money. But you're not going to get me to buy in because we haven't done quality stuff, or at least my perception is that we haven't done quality stuff up until now. So the challenge for you and the challenge for me is we must ask these questions proactively to mitigate the risk of attitudinal barriers and to increase the likelihood of what? Buy-in. So I sit in a meeting and I say, all right, how are we going to get those people to understand the relevance? What words are we going to use? How are we going to position it? What diagram are we going to show? Or how are we going to be explained to that specific stakeholder group the impact? And what backup information do we have? Do we have stats from Stats Canada? Do we have anecdotal stories that we could tell? What am I doing? And finally, we better look within our own selves and see if we're any good. And if we're good, then we know we have a reputation of quality. If we're not, we better be able to explain to people how things are going to be different this time around. We've corrected these. We know we haven't been very good. We've taken these corrective measures. So to the person that asked the question, to me, that's how you practically use it. And then you just do that routinely. And then what happens? It becomes a part of your 80% of your unconscious behavior. It becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a system. Right? Okay, enough of that. Don't forget, you can ask your questions. Questions at rmwbleaders.ca, or Margie's in the chat box ready to take your questions. She's eager to take your questions in the chat box. Now, I need to talk about pride. So I'm going to talk at you for a few minutes about pride and building pride. 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 You see, I think there's a magic force. I think that there is a force that is so powerful that it makes people come to work early and it causes them to stay late. I think that there's a force that's so powerful that they will take stuff and they'll do it on their own time. I think that there's a force that's so powerful that people will do things and not even get paid. I think there's a force that's so powerful that when it's in a person's belly and in their heart, the work that they produce, the life that they produce, the kids that they produce is amazing. So what is that magic force? Pride. Pride. Now look, I'm not talking about false pride or arrogance. I'm talking about that thing that we know when we see it. You know when you see true pride. When you see a craftsman at work. When you see someone that's proud of what they do. And then live out that pride by living out the letter of their job description. And the spirit. Not just the letter. You see them because they come in a little bit early and they stay a little bit late. They do the job right and they do it till it's done. They're routinely coming up with good ideas. They're rarely sick or absent. And you can always count on them to be there for you, the leader. They have pride. So I came across that magic force. I saw that magic force in play. I saw it in play in the lives of athletes. I saw it in play in the lives of frontline employees when I was responsible for 1,100 people. I saw it routinely in play in neighborhoods and communities that I would go to. Pride. Now what's crazy is I also saw when it wasn't in play, right? I saw when there was no pride. I saw when there was a lack of attention to detail, when people showed up late and didn't care, and on and on and on and on. No pride. And I started to say to myself, this funny thing called pride. It's intangible, you can't touch it, but damn, I can tell when I can see it. Pride. So I said to myself, there's got to be a way that you can develop that, proactively and intentionally develop that, where you can engage a human being and begin to instill, cultivate, develop, and deploy pride. Instill, cultivate, and develop, and deploy pride. So today, and the next couple days, we're going to unpack that concept. Pride. How do I do it? Well, here's the funny thing, and hopefully you have your hand out. You got your hand out right there, right? You got your hand out. Got your hand out? Hand out! Have you seen that commercial with the camel? And the camel's all, woot, woot! I don't even know what the product is, but a camel goes like this, woot, woot! Anyways, pride. Now, here's the funny thing. Come to this camera. Right there? Okay, so, there we go. Now, here's the funny thing about pride. There's two kinds of pride. There's organizational pride, and there's individual pride. Organizational pride, now that could also be community. That could be community pride or individual pride. Now, if I want to develop organizational pride or individual pride, there's two different kind of strategies that have to be utilized. It's not the same strategy. It's not the same approach. So what I'm going to do is break it down, just like it's broken down on that flow chart for you. Organizational pride, individual pride. Okay? Organizational pride, individual pride. So first, let's talk about organizational pride. So the first step in building organizational pride is this. Why is it important? Why is it important? Why is what we're doing important? If I can't explain to a human being why what they do is important, very, very unlikely that they'll build organizational pride. I found this when I had room attendants. Room attendants. Ladies who cleaned, and sometimes gentlemen, but mostly ladies, who were housekeepers. They cleaned rooms. They cleaned 15 rooms a day, stuck their head in 15 toilets a day. They were room attendants. Not a lot of pride sometimes in that. Except when I began to explain to them that the work that they did was critical. The work that they did was the backbone. That if somebody got into a hotel room and pulled back the sheets and there was hair in the made bed, they would be disgusted and never come back. That if there was a mess in the washroom, they wouldn't come back. And because we were in a casino environment, if they didn't come back, it wasn't just the room rate that we lost all the money that they would normally gamble. So their value to the organization was significant. But no one had explained why what they did was important. Or why what the organization does is important. Now here's the funny thing. Companies spend millions of dollars looking for meaning. Trying to show their employees meaning. They call them social responsibility campaigns. Here's why we're important. Look at all the good giving and philanthropy we're doing. Aren't you proud to work for us? Look at all the philanthropy we do. Philanthropy. Not philandering. Philanthropy. Look at all the philanthropy we do. Aren't you proud to work for us? Aren't you proud to wear our logo? What do you think? Why do you think they're doing that? Because they're trying to generate organizational pride or customer pride. That customers are proud to do business with them because of all the cool things that they do. So step number one, why is what we do important? Why is the organization have any redeeming value? Or our community or whatever. If we can't do that, the likelihood of pride is minimal. Now, number two, why are we any good? Why are we good? Why are we good? Now here's the funny thing. It's not enough to say that we are important, or the work we do is important, or the organization is important, or whatever. It's not enough to do that. You have to then show that we are any good at it. Sure, this might be important, valuable work, but we suck. Right? This is valuable and important work, but we're no good at it. Now, what's the key to that? The key to that is standards. The key to that is standards. There has to be some standards. And they have to be objective standards, not subjective standards. So is there an industry standard? Is there a regional standard? Is there a provincial-wide standard? Well, how do you apply this on a community level? Well, we know that there's all kinds of community air quality standards, quality of life standards, educational standards, graduation rates. These are all ways that we can show a community that we're any good. You should be proud to live here. Why? The dropout rate is high. You should be proud to live here. Why? The drug use is high. You should be proud to live here. Why? We have a horrible waste management, and 98% of our garbage goes into the landfill. You should be proud to live here. Why? You can't drink the water. So you can't fool people. You can't fool people. I don't care what kind of YouTube videos you come with and Facebook pages you come up with. You're not going to fool people. So you have to be able to give them objective standards and show how the thing, the company, the organization, the community, the whatever that you're involved in is any good at this work or at this thing. Next. Then you have to proactively and regularly communicate it. You see it on the flow chart there. You got to regularly communicate it. Now, that could be in the form of a newsletter. That could be in the form of a face-to-face meeting. That could be in a form of a lot of things. But you have to regularly communicate it. If you're not regularly communicating it, you're going to have a significant challenge. Why? Because it will fade from people's minds. And the stumble and the fall and the mistake and the we did it wrong, and all of a sudden we start focusing on all these negative things. So we quickly forget that the work we do is important, or the thing that we're doing is important, or that it has some redeeming value. You tried to explain it to me, but I forgot. That was 6-8 months ago, a year ago. So I'm just grinding life out. And then, because no one's regularly reinforcing for me the standard, or that we're any good, or we're exceeding the standard, I think I'm just trading time for money. Or I think I just live in a regular old town where nobody gives a crap. And what happens then? No pride. And I just go through life. No magic force. Yeah, but I've seen people that no matter what environment they're in, there's pride. Exactly. That's true. But the majority of people are not like that. So what could regularly communicating look like? Could be a blog, could be a newsletter, could be a YouTube video that you create once a month. In a workplace setting, could be a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting where we share the progress that we're making. Could be at the beginning of the year, we lay out the reasons that we're important and the things that we do are of value and the difference that we can make here and there and everywhere. Then we lay out the standards of which we're measuring that. And then we regularly follow up once a month with a monthly meeting, or an email out from the executive leader that explains it. So it's not enough just to define that the work we do is important, or establish that, hey, here's some indicators of why we're any good at it. You then have to regularly communicate it. Evangelize it, if you will. Evangelize the value. Evangelize the worth. So that people are proud. They say, I am excited to be a part of this. Look at the cool stuff we're doing. I'm excited to be a part of this. We're pretty dang good at it. I'm excited to live in this town. We're one of the best in Canada, or whatever. Alberta, whatever. We're one of the best in a 25-kilometer radius. I don't care. Ian, this sounds like a lot of work. Well, over the next couple of days, I'll break it down a little bit more for you. But that's the big picture, right? Then how about individual pride? Okay, let's look at individual pride. So individual pride is different than organizational pride. I can take pride in my work and not be proud of who I work for. Right? I can take pride in my specific task and how I do it, but think the group that I work for are a bunch of yahoos. So they're two different things. So on the case of individual pride, come to this camera, Jeff. In the case of individual pride, where does it begin? It begins with me, the leader. Now, this could be a nonprofit. This could be a volunteer. This could be in a nonprofit environment where this individual is a volunteer. It could be paid staff. It could be a lot of things. But somehow, I, as the leader, have to show them the value of what they do. Well, I thought you said we showed the value of the organization. I show the value of what the individual does as it relates to this valuable organization. This is why your specific job is important and how it fits into the bigger thing. Now, specific job could be a volunteer, specific job could be a paid staff member, but this is why what you do fits and is valuable to that bigger goal that we have. That is critical. As soon as I understand as an individual how my daily activity contributes to the whole and that the whole has some redeeming value, now I know I have value and my task has value. If I think that my task is menial, I'll feel menial. If I feel like my task has value, I'll feel valuable. And then if you back that up with some reasonable management and reasonable leadership of that individual, they will continue to feel valued. So the first step is that you're able to show them how what they do is valuable or important. Okay? Secondly, we have to regularly evaluate that. Because I can't just blow smoke. I can't just say, hey, what you do has value. Hey, what you do has meaning. Hey, what you do is important. And then never go back and show them how. That's why performance standards, even for volunteers, here's how you did. Here's some feedback. Thank you so much. And if they don't do great, then you have to give them some feedback. Well, you can't say that to volunteers. They'll never come back. Do you know how many volunteers, you know what they really care about? Did anybody see what I did? And if you coach them a little bit about how it could be done better, they're going to be appreciative. Because too often times they don't hear anything. They don't hear you're no good. They don't hear you were great. They don't hear anything. And in a for-profit setting, in a work setting, thank you, in a work setting, they just want to know where they stand. Good, bad, right, or wrong, just tell me where I'm stand. And tell me the truth. Right? So, valuable and important, but then I've got to have some standard, objective standard, where I'm evaluating that. Kind of similar, isn't it? Then, I have to celebrate. What do you mean celebrate? Anytime somebody exceeds the standard, I celebrate. Well done. If they don't exceed the standard, I coach them up. Exceeding the standard, well done. Don't exceed the standard, coach them up. Now, here's the funny thing. We'll post some information about employee development in the coming weeks. Employee development. How do I coach a poor performer? But for today, know this. If someone exceeds the standard, a volunteer, a part-time staff, a full-time staff, a community member, whatever, good job. If they don't, let me give you some tips. Let me give you some ideas. I think that it can be formal. I think it can be informal. So informal. Great work, great job. I know what sometimes I've done with volunteers after a big volunteer activity. I've gone around and given everybody Hershey Kisses. You know those little Hershey and the Hershey chocolate thing? Hershey Kisses. Hand them out. I can't kiss you, but here you go. Or Band-Aids. After a big special event, give out Band-Aids. Here you go. Why are you giving me a Band-Aid? Because I know you got your butt kicked, but I really appreciate the work that you did today. Silly? Of course. But it's the appreciation. So that's an informal. Formal. Maybe a note. A handwritten note. In today's day and age, a handwritten note. Not a typed, not a, right? Handwritten note. And don't just put it in their file. Send it to their house. Take a moment to handwritten note, send it to their house. Yeah, but how would I do that when I don't have a title? How about just a handwritten note that you put in a coworker's box? Thank you. I saw the way you dealt with that customer. Or thank you. I saw the way that you helped me. Thank you so much. Wow. So whether it's formal or informal. Now look, I'm not a big advocate of Employee of the Month. I don't think Employee of the Month is the way to go. Because that means that one person was great and everybody else sucked. Come on now. Anybody that hits the standard, celebrate. Anybody that achieves the standard, celebrate. And then finally, the last step in that is, the last step in that is that we have to do all that regularly and consistently. And you see that on the flow chart. It's there on the flow chart. Regularly and consistently. So what's this all about? This is all about a quick overview of how do I intentionally develop pride. Ultimately, one of the biggest components of pride is you. Huh? Yeah, it's you. As they do the research, as they do the studies, as they do the investigation, you know what they come to find? They come to find that people derive pride from who they work for. Are they proud of who they work for? And oftentimes the answer is no. Oh, I like them. They're not bad people, but I'm not necessarily proud. Are your people proud of you? Are they proud of who they work for? Because remember, the individuals that they're closely most interact with, that they most interact with and are closely aligned with, that's who the organization is to them. The CEO might be this, that, and whatever, but the line supervisor interacting is the organization. So I think we have to ask ourselves, why would anybody be proud to be led by me? What do I bring? Now, I don't think it has to be big things. I don't think it has to be huge things. But I think it has to be proactive. Maybe the thing you bring is that you're a great listener. Maybe the thing you bring is that you're an effective planner. Maybe the thing you bring is that you're really creative. Maybe the thing you bring is you're very kind. Maybe the thing you bring is you go help them with personal problems and you listen to their and give good recommendations. I don't know. Could be a myriad of things. Could be tangible, could be intangible, but you got to give them something. And I think you should identify it proactively. And then you just got to make sure you go do it. And you go do it regularly. Why would someone be proud to work for me or work for you? And work meaning let you lead them. Because some of you have titles and some of you don't. And you can expand your sphere of influence by understanding some of these concepts. Now, certainly it's easier to deploy these concepts when you have a formal title. But in many, many instances, you can deploy these concepts when you're a part of a volunteer group. And you can say to the volunteer group, how are we building pride in our volunteers? You can do this as a community leader. How are we building pride in our citizens? How do we get our citizens to come out and volunteer more? If they take pride in their community, they will. Yeah, but nobody takes pride anymore. Then develop it. Think about all the institutions that would have instilled some of the qualities that we're talking about. They're fractionalized at best. The family unit, so on and so on. So from your standpoint, from my standpoint, pride. Okay. In the coming days, or there on the website, you'll be able to access more information as we take each one of these pieces and break it down to a greater degree. Organizational, individual, and then a final thought, which is you. And what do you do to develop that pride? It is definitely a magic force. It is definitely a magic force that you can utilize, Definitely a magic force. And I hope that you will utilize it. All right, let's go ahead and take your questions. Any questions? We got 5 minutes left. So if you have a question, now's the time to ask it. You can either ask it in your chat box or you can ask it via email. Chat box or email. Questions at rmwbleaders.ca or in the chat box. Pride, buy-in, being a catalyst for responsibility. So tomorrow morning, Monday morning, and Tuesday morning, we'll unpack this to a greater degree. We'll unpack this thing called pride. All right, what can we look forward to? Well, you know what? We're coming to the end. We don't have that long to go, do we? We don't have that long to go. We're coming up to our last 2 times together. Can you believe that? Coming up to our last 2 times together. So there's still time for you to make your commitment. There's still time for you to walk that commitment out, or at least begin it. I got an email the other day from somebody that said, how long can we access this information? I'm a little behind. Forever. You're going to be able to access this information forever. Forever. At least that's my commitment, that you'll be able to access the information forever. The reason that we did this program, the reason that we're doing this program, is because we all believe that the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo, that area, the area that you live, can be something special, has the potential to be something incredible, has the potential to be a beacon of hope to communities all across North America and beyond, all across Canada, all across the United States, all across North America and beyond. That the potential to be the Athens of the 21st century. And you're a part of that. This program is free to you. You're not paying a dime for this. And so you have got to start thinking about what you're going to do with this knowledge, what you're going to do with this information, what you're going to do with this. And how are you going to use it to go out and make the world a better place, or at least your little corner of it. You might not be able to affect the whole big bad world, but what can you do to make your little corner of the world better? You have to start asking yourself that, because we expect you to go do something. We expect you to make a positive impact. Big, small, we don't care. Just do something with the information that we have freely given to you. And the time and the energy and the effort that we have freely given to you. You look at that learning portal right now, there's tons of information in there. Freely given to you. And asking nothing in return, then you go and do something with it. All right, next week, we've got our teaching session. We're winding this thing down. We're done mid-June. We're done mid-June. We don't have that long to go. And whether you're in Fort Chip, we'll see you on Tuesday. Whether you're in Fort McMurray, we'll see you on Wednesday. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us either live or on the archive, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.